What you're about to hear isn't a critique of religion, it's an autopsy. Because if you've ever wondered why, in the 21st century, we still believe in the invisible, the answer is far darker than you imagine. And no, it's not just a matter of faith. It's power, it's fear, and above all, it's control. But once you hear this, you'll never be able to look at religion the same way again. And the worst part is, Hitchens already warned us. Before science, before writing, before even settled civilization, there was belief. In the shadow of mortality, surrounded by unexplained natural forces, early humans looked to the skies, the rivers, and the animals for signs. Death was inevitable, storms were mysterious, and disease seemed like a punishment. In such a world, religion wasn't a luxury or an error. It was a tool for survival. Christopher Hitchens argued that religion emerged not from wisdom, but from ignorance paired with emotional desperation. To him, early religion was born from our species' terror and confusion in the face of a vast, indifferent universe. This wasn't idiocy. It was evolutionary adaptation. Belief gave structure to the chaos, community to the isolated, and comfort to the frightened. Religion comes from the period of human prehistory where nobody, not even the mighty Democritus, who concluded that all matter was made from atoms, had the least idea what was going on. That quote summarizes Hitchens' view. Religion is not an enlightened response to mystery, but a primitive one. It came from our psychological infancy, a phase of development where myths filled in for knowledge and stories substituted for science. The gods explained thunder and crop failure. Rituals promised rain, fertility, and healing. These weren't superstitions, they were survival strategies. Religion bonded tribes, enforced social cohesion, and provided emotional refuge. In a brutal world, it served as a psychological immune system. Hitchens saw all of this not as validation of religion's truth, but as proof of its deep roots in human need. Religion, in this view, is not divine. It's deeply human, an evolutionary tool built to answer what we didn't yet understand. And in the beginning, that was everything. What began as spiritual comfort in times of uncertainty soon transformed into a power structure. As civilizations grew, so did religion, evolving from scattered tribal beliefs into organized institutions capable of dictating laws, imposing punishments, and shaping entire societies. Religion ceased being merely an explanation of the world and became a mechanism of domination. Kings ruled by divine right. Scriptures dictated acceptable behaviors, and disobedience was punished not just with social exclusion, but with death. The institutionalization of faith turned the sacred into a political tool. Christopher Hitchens was relentless in denouncing this transformation. For him, organized religion wasn't simply a form of faith, it was a structured source of hatred, intolerance, and repression. Religion is violent, irrational, intolerant, allied to racism, tribalism, and bigotry, invested in ignorance and hostile to free inquiry. From the Crusades to the Inquisition, from the burning of heretics to the modern persecution of minorities, Hitchens saw a constant pattern of authoritarian imposition within religion. Faith, in his view, didn't just demand belief, it demanded submission. It didn't invite reflection, but rather blind obedience. Divine authority was unquestionable, and in its name, wars, slavery, and genocides were justified. Worse still, the sacred became a shield for the powerful and chains for the oppressed. For Hitchens, understanding religion as a tool of control isn't cynicism. It's recognizing its historical role. Faith hasn't just shaped cultures, it has also consolidated empires, and often it has done so with blood and fire. We live in an age where machines explore other planets, where biology can edit DNA, and where science has unveiled everything from the origin of the universe to the workings of the human brain. And yet, amidst these advancements, millions still cling to texts written millennia ago. This contradiction both fascinated and irritated Christopher Hitchens. How is it possible that in the age of reason, faith still holds such sway? The answer for him wasn't in the truth of religions, but in their emotional appeal. Science explains, but it doesn't console. Reason illuminates, but it doesn't soothe. Religion, on the other hand, promises immortality, cosmic justice, and absolute meaning. No matter how irrational its claims, it offers something science doesn't pretend to: comfort for the soul. What can be asserted without proof can be dismissed without proof. This statement encapsulates Hitchens' philosophy. For him, believing without evidence was not just an intellectual error, but a threat to the integrity of human thought. Accepting ideas for emotional comfort, rather than for their veracity, weakens the critical mind and keeps us anchored in superstition. Scientific advancement hasn't eradicated religion because the truth, often, is harder to accept than comforting fiction. And that's where Hitchens saw the real challenge. Not in refuting doctrines, but in pushing people to prefer the uncomfortable but real over the warm but false. In the age of knowledge, faith persists, but no longer as an intellectual necessity, rather as an emotional resistance to the void that knowledge leaves when it isn't filled with illusions. One of the most common defenses of religion is that without it, there would be no morality. Without God, anything is permitted, some say. Christopher Hitchens not only rejected this idea, he considered it dangerous. For him, claiming that goodness depends on a divine authority minimizes humanity's true ethical capacity. Human decency does not derive from religion. It precedes it. With this statement, Hitchens dismantles the central argument of many religions, that without them, we would descend into barbarism. In his view, empathy, cooperation, and a sense of justice evolved long before commandments or scriptures existed. These were necessary for the survival of primitive social groups, not divine gifts. Furthermore, Hitchens emphasized that religious texts are not exactly examples of universal morality. From punishments for blasphemy to genocides ordered by gods, and the systematic oppression of women, homosexuals, and dissidents, religions have promoted actions we would now consider profoundly immoral. In his words, some religious teachings are positively perverse. How can it be moral for someone to suffer in your place and that frees you from responsibility? What kind of ethics teaches that sin can be forgiven without reparation, just by faith? True ethics, according to Hitchens, require neither divine reward nor punishment. They require critical thinking, empathy, and responsibility. We don't need a promise of heaven or the fear of hell to know that killing, stealing, or discriminating are wrong. Thus, dismantling religion's moral illusion isn't attacking human goodness, but giving credit where it's due. We are good not out of fear of God, but out of conscious choice. For Christopher Hitchens, true human progress begins when we stop fearing free thought. The deepest liberation isn't political or economic, it's intellectual. To be free from religion for him didn't mean falling into an existential void, but rather moving towards a more honest and complete understanding of the world. Religion, he argued, is an ancient invention. It was useful in its time, but today it's an outdated idea. It still serves emotional functions, yes, but it does so at the cost of truth. Evidence-based knowledge, critical reason, and scientific skepticism are, for Hitchens, the only paths worthy of an emancipated mind. We do not trust science and reason because they are necessary, but not sufficient. We distrust anything that contradicts science or offends reason. With this declaration, Hitchens elevates rational thought to an ethical principle. It's not just about seeking answers, but about having the courage to reject the easy ones, the comfortable ones, those that survive only by tradition or fear. Secular morality, grounded in critical thinking, isn't a threat. It's an evolution. We no longer need myths to be just, nor dogmas to be good. We can build ethical systems based on compassion, evidence, and human rights. Hitchens didn't call for a crusade against religion. He called for an inner revolution, to question what's inherited, to think for oneself, and to accept that not knowing is better than pretending to know. Ultimately, it's not that religion hasn't been powerful. It's that reason is more so. And in that difference lies the possibility of a truly free humanity. If this video made you think differently, even for a second, then it has already served its purpose. But if you want more people to awaken from comfortable narratives and dare to question, Help me out with a like and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but for the conversation this world needs to have.